The morning bell rang through the halls of the Starship Celestial Harmony. Captain Hyun-woo walked slowly to the main dining room, his black boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. He had been captain of this ship for 3 years now, but he still loved the quiet moments before his crew woke up. The dining room was large and round with big windows that showed the stars outside. In the center sat a big circular table made of dark wood from Earth. 12 chairs surrounded the table, each one different to fit the many alien species that worked on the ship. Hyun-woo stopped and looked at the table. 11 chairs were pushed in neatly. One chair sat empty, pulled out slightly as if someone had just left for a moment. A clean plate, cup, and eating tools sat in front of the empty chair, ready for a meal that would never come. The captain's face grew sad as he looked at that chair. He reached into his pocket and touched a small silver pin, running his finger over its smooth surface. Then he heard footsteps behind him. "Good morning, Captain," said So-young, the chief medical officer. She was a short woman with kind eyes and gray hair tied back in a neat bun. In her hands she carried a small tray with food. "Morning, So-young," Hyun-woo replied, watching as she walked to the empty chair. So-young placed a small bowl of rice and a cup of tea at the empty place setting. She did this every morning, and every evening she would quietly take the untouched food away. No one ever asked her why. No one needed to ask. "The new communication officer seems curious about our traditions," So-young said softly, setting down the food with great care. Hyun-woo nodded. "Taemin is a good kid. Smart too. It's natural for him to wonder." Taemin was only 22 years old and had been on the ship for 6 months. He was tall and thin, with bright eyes that seemed to notice everything, like all humans on the ship. He wore the small silver pin on his uniform, but he had never asked what it meant. The dining room door opened and more crew members began to enter. First came Jin-ho, the chief engineer. He was a big man with rough hands and a beard that was always a little messy. His clothes smelled like machine oil and metal. He looked at the empty chair and gave a small nod before sitting down. Next came the alien crew members. There was Crix, a tall blue creature with 4 arms who worked as the science officer. His people were called the Zentari, and they were known for being very smart. Crix always sat in the same spot and ate the same green soup every morning. Commander Yulta entered next. She was from a race called the Morvani, who looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs. Her orange fur was always perfectly clean, and her uniform was never wrinkled. She was the second in command of the ship and took her job very seriously. More crew members filled the dining room. There was Breck, a short gray alien who fixed the computers. There was Zin, who looked like a walking tree and grew the food for the ship. Each species was different, but they all worked together like a family. Taemin came in last, carrying a cup of coffee and a data pad. He was always reading reports or studying something new. As he walked to his usual seat, his eyes stopped on the empty chair. He had noticed it many times before, but today something felt different. The young man sat down next to Mi-young, the ship's navigator. She was a woman in her 30s with short black hair and quick hands that were always moving. She could plot a course through space faster than the ship's computer. "Mi-young," Taemin said quietly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," she replied, not looking up from her breakfast. "That chair there," he pointed to the empty seat. "Why is it always empty? I've been here 6 months, and I've never seen anyone sit there." Mi-young stopped eating. Around the table, the other crew members grew quiet. Even the aliens seemed to understand that something important was being discussed. "It's tradition," Mi-young said simply. "But whose chair is it?" "Taemin," asked Jin-ho, looked up from his food, his face serious. "It belongs to someone who earned it." "Where are they now?" Taemin continued. The silence grew heavier. Captain Hyun-woo cleared his throat and spoke in a firm voice. "Some questions don't need answers right now, Taemin. Respect the tradition." The young officer felt his face turn red. He had not meant to upset anyone. He looked around the table and saw that all the humans were touching their silver pins. The aliens watched with interest but said nothing. After breakfast, most of the crew left for their daily work. Taemin stayed behind to help clean up, hoping to learn more. He watched So Young carefully remove the untouched food from the empty place setting. "So Young," he said softly. "I'm sorry if I asked the wrong thing." The medical officer smiled at him. "You didn't do anything wrong, Taemin. Curiosity is good, but some stories are heavy and we carry them carefully." "Is it someone who died?" he asked. So Young paused, holding the small bowl in her hands. "In a way, yes, but also no. The person this chair represents changed everything for humans in space, changed everything for all of us." She walked toward the kitchen, then stopped and turned back. "The pin you wear, Taemin. Do you know what it means?" Taemin looked down at the small silver symbol on his uniform. It showed a star with something wrapped around it, but he had never really studied it closely. "No, I don't. Ask Jin Ho about it sometime. He was there when it all happened." Taemin spent the rest of the day thinking about the empty chair and the silver pin. During his shift in the communications center, he kept touching the pin and wondering about its meaning. He had always thought it was just a decoration that all humans wore. That evening, the crew gathered again for dinner. Taemin watched as So Young once again placed food at the empty chair. This time he noticed that she whispered something very quietly, too soft for anyone else to hear. As the meal ended and the crew began to leave, something unusual happened. A new crew member, an alien that Taemin had never seen before, walked toward the empty chair. The creature was tall and thin with pale skin and large black eyes. It reached out to pull the chair closer to sit down. "No." Jinho's voice boomed across the room. Everyone stopped and turned to look. The alien froze, its hand still on the chair. Jinho stood up quickly, his face angry. "That seat is not for sitting." I apologize," the alien said in broken standard language. "I did not know." Captain Hyunwoo stood up and walked over. His voice was calm but firm. "That chair is reserved. It's part of our ship's tradition. Please choose another seat." The alien nodded and moved to a different chair, looking confused and embarrassed. The rest of the meal was eaten in uncomfortable silence. No one spoke, and the only sounds were the quiet clinking of eating tools against plates. After dinner, Taemin found himself alone in the dining room, staring at the empty chair. The stars outside the windows seemed brighter tonight, and he wondered what secrets they had seen. He reached up and unpinned the silver symbol from his uniform, holding it in his palm. In the light, he could see the design more clearly. It was a star just as he had thought, but wrapped around it was something that looked like a chain or rope. Below the star were tiny words too small to read without help. Curious about that pin, Taemin turned to see Do-hyun, the ship's security chief, standing in the doorway. Do-hyun was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands. He had been in space longer than anyone else on the ship except the captain. "Yes, sir," Taemin replied. "So Young said I should ask Jin Ho about it, but I haven't had the chance." Do-hyun walked over and sat down at the table, but not in the empty chair. "That pin represents something important, Taemin. Something that every human in the galaxy should remember." "What is it?" Do-hyun looked at the empty chair, then back at the young officer. "It's a reminder of who we are, and who we can be when it matters most." The older man stood up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned. "Back one more time. The person who earned that chair taught the galaxy something about humans that no one expected to learn. When you're ready to hear that story, really ready, come find me." Taemin sat alone in the dining room for a long time that night, holding his silver pin and looking at the empty chair. He had a feeling that everything was about to change. 3 days after Taemin's questions about the empty chair, a new crew member arrived on the Celestial Harmony. The transport ship docked with a loud metal clang that echoed through the halls. Captain Hyunwoo stood at the docking bay with his senior officers waiting to meet their new team member. The airlock door opened with a hiss and out stepped Ambassador Velthari. The alien was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to shine under the ship's lights. Its large head held 2 bright yellow eyes that moved quickly, studying everything around it. Velthari belonged to a race called the Axiom, known throughout the galaxy for being extremely smart and logical. "Welcome aboard the Celestial Harmony," Captain Hyunwoo said, extending his hand in the human greeting. Velthari looked at the hand for a moment before reaching out with its own long, thin fingers. "Captain Hyunwoo, I am Ambassador Velthari. I have been assigned to study human customs and behavior during this mission." "We're honored to have you with us," the captain replied. "Let me introduce you to my senior staff." As they walked through the ship, Velthari's eyes noticed everything. It counted the lights on the ceiling, measured the width of the hallways with its gaze, and made mental notes about the efficiency of the ship's design. The Axiom were famous for wanting everything to be perfect and logical. "Your ship appears to be well maintained," Velthari said as they entered the main dining room. "However, I noticed some unusual choices in the furniture arrangement." The alien stopped walking and stared at the big round table. Its yellow eyes focused on the empty chair with the clean plate and cup sitting in front of it. "This appears to be inefficient," Velthari said, pointing at the chair. "You have wasted valuable space and resources on a seating position that serves no function." The human officers exchanged uncomfortable looks. Mi-young, the navigator, cleared her throat. "It's part of our ship's tradition, Ambassador." "Tradition?" Velthari's head tilted to one side like a bird studying something strange. "I do not understand. Tradition should serve a logical purpose. What purpose does an empty chair serve?" Captain Hyunwoo stepped forward. "Some traditions are about remembering important things, Ambassador. Not everything needs to be explained by logic alone." "I disagree," Velthari replied quickly. "Logic explains everything. If this chair serves no practical function, it should be removed or used properly." The tension in the room grew thick. Jin-ho, the chief engineer, made a low growling sound in his throat. Do-hyun, the security chief, put his hand on Jin-ho's shoulder to keep him calm. "Let me show you to your quarters," Captain Hyunwoo said, trying to change the subject. "You can settle in and we'll have dinner together tonight." That evening, the crew gathered in the dining room as usual. Velthari sat in its assigned chair and watched everything with great interest. It saw So-young place the small portion of food at the empty chair, and its eyes grew bright with curiosity. "Excuse me," Velthari said loudly, interrupting the quiet dinner conversation. "I observe that food is being placed at the empty chair. This is extremely wasteful. Food resources should not be squandered on symbolic gestures." The room fell silent. All the humans stopped eating and looked at each other. The alien crew members also grew quiet, sensing that something important was happening. Furthermore, Velthari continued, "I have studied the seating arrangement and determined that this empty chair is positioned in the place of highest honor, directly across from the captain. This suggests that whoever this chair represents held a position of great importance. I demand to know who this person was and why they are being honored in such an inefficient manner." Taemin felt his heart beating faster. Finally, someone else was asking the questions he had been thinking about for days. Mi-young set down her fork and spoke quietly. "Ambassador, some things are more important than efficiency. This chair represents someone who earned respect through their actions." "What actions?" Velthari pressed. "I have reviewed all ship records and personnel files. There is no mention of any crew member significant enough to warrant this level of honor." Do-hyun, the security chief, finally spoke up. His voice was calm but firm. "That chair belongs to someone who earned it through sacrifice, someone who can't fill it anymore, but whose presence we still need." "This makes no logical sense," Velthari said, its voice getting louder. "Dead individuals cannot be present. Empty chairs do not provide leadership or guidance. You are all behaving irrationally." Jin-ho slammed his hand on the table, making the plates jump. "You don't understand anything," he shouted. "Jin-ho, calm down," Captain Hyunwoo said firmly. "No, Captain," Jin-ho continued, his face red with anger. This thing comes on our ship and insults our traditions. It doesn't understand what that chair means, what that person meant to all of us." Velthari stood up, its tall form towering over the table. "I am here to study human behavior, and what I observe is highly illogical. You waste resources, honor the dead in inefficient ways, and become emotional when questioned about these practices. Maybe you should study a little harder. Mi-Young said, her voice sharp. Not everything can be understood through data and logic. Everything can and should be understood through logic, Velthari replied. Emotion clouds, judgment, and leads to poor decisions. Taemin watched the argument grow more heated. He noticed something interesting during the conflict. Every human at the table had reached up to touch their silver pin at some point during the conversation. Even he had done it without thinking. Captain Hyunwoo stood up, ending the argument with his presence. Ambassador Velthari, you are welcome on this ship, but you will respect our traditions even if you don't understand them. That chair stays exactly where it is. I find this unacceptable, Velthari said. I will be filing a report with the Galactic Federation about these inefficient practices. You do that, the captain replied. Meeting dismissed. As the crew left the dining room, Velthari remained standing by its chair, studying the empty seat across the table. It walked around the table and examined the chair closely, looking at the clean plate and the carefully placed eating tools. Taemin was about to leave when he saw the ambassador lean down and smell the food that So-Young had placed there. The alien's yellow eyes grew thoughtful for a moment. Human, Velthari called out. Taemin turned around. Yes, Ambassador. You wear a decorative pin on your uniform. All humans on this ship wear the same pin. What is its significance? Taemin looked down at his silver pin. I'm not sure, sir. I was told it represents something important, but no one has explained it to me yet. Curious, Velthari said. A symbol worn by all members of a species, yet its meaning is kept secret. This suggests a shared experience or memory of great significance. The ambassador walked closer to Taemin and studied the pin carefully. May I examine it? Taemin unpinned the silver symbol and handed it to Velthari. The alien held it up to the light, turning it slowly to see all sides. Interesting, Velthari muttered. The design shows a star wrapped in what appears to be chains or bonds. There are small words engraved here, but they are too small for me to read clearly. Velthari handed the pin back to Taemin. I believe this symbol and the empty chair are connected. If I can understand the meaning of one, I will understand the other. Why is it so important to you? Taemin asked. Because, Velthari replied, the axiom have studied hundreds of species, but humans continue to confuse us. Your people do things that make no logical sense, yet somehow they work. This troubles my species greatly. The alien looked back at the empty chair one more time. Logic dictates that there is a reason for this tradition, even if it appears irrational. I will discover that reason. As Velthari left the dining room, Taemin stayed behind, looking at his silver pin in a new way. If this symbol was important enough to puzzle an entire alien race, then it must represent something truly significant. He walked over to the empty chair and stood behind it, imagining what kind of person could earn such honor that an entire ship would save their seat forever. The stars outside the windows seemed to hold secrets, and Taemin felt closer than ever to learning the truth. The next morning, Taemin woke up to find a message on his communication device. It was from Velthari, requesting a meeting to discuss the silver pins and the empty chair tradition. The ambassador had spent the entire night researching and apparently had discovered something interesting. As Taemin prepared for his shift, he wondered what Velthari had found. He had a feeling that the logical alien might be the key to finally understanding the mystery that had puzzled him for so long. The truth was closer than he thought, and it would change everything he believed about humans and their place in the galaxy. Taemin found Velthari in the ship's library at dawn. The tall alien sat hunched over a data terminal, its yellow eyes scanning through hundreds of files on the screen. Empty food containers and cold coffee cups surrounded the workstation, showing that Velthari had been there all night. Ambassador, Taemin said quietly, not wanting to startle the focused alien. You wanted to meet with me? Velthari looked up, its silver skin looking pale under the library lights. Yes, human Taemin. I have discovered something important about your silver pins, something that is not in the official Galactic Federation records. Taemin sat down in the chair next to Velthari. On the screen he could see old documents, ship logs, and personnel files dating back 20 years. What did you find? Taman asked. Your pin represents something called the Terran Memorial Corps, Velthari said, pointing at the screen. But this organization does not exist in any current Federation database. It has been removed. Removed? Why would they remove it? Velthari's long fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, bringing up more files. That is what puzzles me. I found only small pieces of information, hidden in old maintenance logs and personal messages. Someone tried very hard to erase this story from history. On the screen, Taman could see fragments of reports. Words jumped out at him. Human insubordination, violation of orders, court-martial, and resignation in protest. 20 years ago, Velthari continued. Humans were new to the Galactic Federation. According to these fragments, your species was not respected by the other races. What do you mean? Taman asked, though he was beginning to understand. Humans were given only basic jobs. Maintenance work, food service, cleaning duties. The other species considered you primitive and dangerous. They did not trust humans with important tasks. Taman felt his face grow hot with anger. That's not fair. No, it was not, Velthari agreed. But something happened that changed everything. Something involving one human whose name appears in several of these old files, but always with the details erased. Before Taman could ask more questions, footsteps echoed in the library. Yunji, the ship's librarian, entered carrying a stack of old books. She was a quiet woman who usually avoided conversations, but when she saw what was on Velthari's screen, she stopped walking. Oh, she said softly, looking at the files about the Terran Memorial Corps. You found those old records. Velthari stood up quickly. Human Yunji, you know about this organization? Yunji set down her books and walked closer to the terminal. Her face was sad as she looked at the screen. Every human knows about it, Ambassador. We all wear the pins to remember. Remember what? Taman asked urgently. What happened 20 years ago? Yunji was quiet for a long moment. She touched the silver pin on her uniform, the same way all the humans did when they were thinking about something serious. The pin represents someone who showed the galaxy what humans are really capable of, she said finally. Someone who proved that being new to space doesn't mean being weak or stupid. Who was this person? Velthari demanded. Their name is removed from all the files I found. His name was Shung Ho, Yunji said quietly. He was just a maintenance worker on a science ship. The alien crew treated him badly because they thought humans were inferior. Taman leaned forward in his chair. What did he do? He saved billions of lives, Yunji replied. And because of that, every human in the fleet resigned in protest when the Federation tried to punish him for it. Before she could explain more, the ship's emergency alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed in the library and Captain Yunwu's voice came over the communication system. All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have received a distress signal from Research Station Alpha 7. They are under attack by space pirates and requesting immediate assistance. Hyunji, Taemin, and Velthari rushed to the bridge. When they arrived, they found the crew already at their stations preparing for emergency action. The main screen showed a star map with a flashing red dot indicating the research station's location. Report, Captain Hyunwoo called out as they entered. Mi Young, the navigator, spoke quickly from her station. The research station has 43 scientists and support staff. They're being attacked by a pirate fleet of at least 8 ships. The pirates have already destroyed 2 of the station's defensive platforms. How long until we reach them? The captain asked. At maximum speed, 18 minutes, Mi Young replied. But Captain, the pirates have us outgunned 3-1. Standard Federation protocol says we should call for backup and wait for a full battle fleet. Velthari stepped forward. The human is correct, Captain. Logic dictates that you should retreat and request assistance from larger ships. Attempting to fight superior forces is inefficient and dangerous. Captain Hyunwoo looked at the screen showing the research station under attack. Explosions flashed on the display as the pirates continued their assault. How long would it take for a Federation battle fleet to arrive? At least 2 hours, reported Crix, the blue-skinned science officer. The research station won't last. 30 minutes. Jinho said grimly from his engineering station. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of the ship's engines and the beeping of various instruments. Everyone waited for the captain's decision. Velthari watched the humans carefully studying their faces and body language. "Set course for the research station," Captain Hyunwoo said firmly. "Maximum speed." "Captain," Velthari protested. "This is not logical. You will be destroyed attempting to fight superior forces." "Maybe," the captain replied. "But we're not going to let those people die while we run away and wait for help." As the ship changed course and accelerated toward the battle, Tae-min noticed something remarkable happening around him. Every human crew member's behavior changed completely. The uncertainty and casual attitude from their normal duties disappeared, replaced by focused determination and calm courage. Mi-young's hands moved over her navigation controls with perfect precision, calculating attack routes and evasive maneuvers. Jinho pushed the engines beyond their normal limits, coaxing more speed from the ship than it was designed to give. Do-hyun coordinated the weapon systems with deadly efficiency. Even Tae-min felt the change in himself. His usual nervousness vanished and he found himself working at his communication station with confidence and skill he didn't know he possessed. Velthari observed all of this with growing amazement. The logical part of its mind said that humans were being reckless and stupid, but another part recognized something it had never seen before in any species: the complete willingness to risk everything to help strangers. Approaching the battle zone, Mi-young announced. "Pirates have spotted us and are moving to intercept." On the main screen, they could see the research station surrounded by enemy ships. Parts of the station were on fire, and escape pods were launching into space as the staff tried to abandon their home. "Jun-seo," Captain Hyunwoo called to the weapons officer. "Target their lead ship. We're going to hit them hard and fast." "Yes, sir," Jun-seo replied, his fingers dancing over the weapon controls. Velthari moved closer to Tae-min's station. "Your species is about to attempt something that has less than a 12% chance of success," the alien said quietly. "I know," Tae-min replied, not taking his eyes off his instruments. "Yet none of you seem afraid. This is illogical." Tae-min looked up at the alien for a moment. "Fear doesn't matter when people need help, Ambassador. That's what makes us human." Azint. The celestial harmony entered weapons range of the pirate fleet. Velthari began to understand that there was something special about humans that could not be measured by logic or efficiency. Something that made them willing to face impossible odds to protect others. The battle was about to begin, and with it, Velthari would witness firsthand the kind of courage that had made one human named Shung-ho a legend throughout the galaxy. Tiko, space around them erupted in weapon fire as the pirates opened their attack. The real test of human character was about to begin. The first pirate ship fired its weapons at the celestial harmony. Red laser beams cut through space toward them, but Mi-young had already predicted the attack. She spun the ship to the left, just as the weapons reached where they had been a second before. "Direct hit on their weapons array," Jun-seo shouted from his station as their return fire struck the pirate ship. Captain Hyun-woo gripped his chair as the ship shook from another enemy attack. "Haewon, damage report. Hull breach on deck 7, called out Haewon, the damage control specialist. She was a small woman with quick hands and grease stains on her uniform. "I'm on it." Velthari watched in amazement as Haewon ran from the bridge. According to the alien's calculations, Deck 7 was currently exposed to the vacuum of space and deadly radiation. No logical being would go there without full protective gear, yet the human woman had left with only a basic repair kit. Another wave incoming, Mi-young warned, steering the ship through a complex spiral pattern that avoided most of the enemy fire. The battle continued for 20 minutes. The celestial harmony was faster and smarter than the pirate ships, but there were 8 enemies against 1. Slowly, the ship began taking serious damage. "Shields at 30%, reported Crix, the blue-skinned science officer. "We cannot maintain this battle much longer. The research station is still launching escape pods," Tae-min called from his communication station. "I count 15 pods away safely, but there are still people inside." Captain Hyun-woo looked at the main screen. 2 pirate ships had broken away from the fight and were moving toward the helpless escape pods. "They're going after the survivors. Junseo, can you target those ships?" the captain asked. "Not from here, sir. We'd have to break away from protecting the station." It was an impossible choice. Protect the people still on the station, or save the ones already in escape pods. Either way, people would die. That's when something unexpected happened. Jin-ho's voice came over the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, I can give you 15 seconds of maximum power, more speed and weapons than this ship was ever designed to handle, but it might destroy the engines." "Do it," Captain Hyun-woo said without hesitation. "Sir," Velthari interrupted, "if the engines are destroyed, we will be helpless in space. This is extremely dangerous." "So is letting those people die," the captain replied. The ship suddenly moved faster than it ever had before. Junseo fired weapons at power levels that made the entire ship shake. In 15 seconds, they destroyed 1 pirate ship and damaged 2 others so badly that they had to retreat. But Jin-ho was right about the cost. Smoke began pouring from the engine room, and several systems failed completely. "Engines are offline," Jin-ho reported, coughing from the smoke. "We're running on emergency power only." "The remaining pirates are regrouping," Mi-young warned. 5 ships moving toward us. They had saved the escape pods, but now they were trapped. The pirates surrounded them slowly, like wolves circling wounded prey. "This is Captain Throck of the Crimson Raiders," came a harsh voice over the communication system. "Surrender now or be destroyed." Captain Hyun-woo looked around his bridge. His ship was damaged, his crew was tired, and they were completely outnumbered. Any logical species would surrender. "This is Captain Hyun-woo of the Federation ship Celestial Harmony," he replied calmly. "We decline your offer." Velthari stared at the human captain in shock. "You cannot be serious, they will destroy us." "Maybe," Hyun-woo said, "but we're not giving up while people still need our help." The alien crew members on the bridge looked worried, but none of the humans seemed afraid. They all touched their silver pins and prepared for the final battle. That's when Haiwan's voice came from Deck 7, where she was still making repairs in the dangerous area. "Captain, I found something interesting in the old maintenance logs, something about that empty chair." "Not now, Haiwan," the captain replied. "Sir, I think you need to hear this. It's about what happened 20 years ago. As the pirate ships prepared for their final attack, Haiwan's voice continued over the communication system. She had found the complete story hidden in the ship's oldest files. 20 years ago, a human named Seung-ho was working on a science ship as a junior maintenance worker. The alien crew treated him badly because humans were new and considered inferior. The pirates were moving closer, but somehow everyone on the bridge was listening to Haiwan's story. Their ship encountered a massive rogue fleet that had gone crazy with bloodlust. This fleet was heading toward a peaceful planet to destroy an entire civilization. Billions of people were going to die. Junseo kept his weapons ready, but his eyes were wide as he listened. The alien crew wanted to run away and report back to the Federation. By the time help arrived, the planet would be destroyed and everyone would be dead. Captain Hyun-woo felt his throat grow tight. He knew this story, but hearing it told while they faced their own impossible battle made it more powerful. Seung-ho made a choice, Haiwan continued. He disabled his own ship's retreat system so they couldn't run away. Then he sent a message to the rogue fleet, pretending to speak for a powerful human battle group that didn't exist. Velthari listened with growing understanding. He bluffed and negotiated and convinced the enemy that attacking the planet would bring terrible revenge. From Earth's hidden armada, the rogue fleet believed him and retreated. Billions of lives were saved. But the Federation Council was angry. Taemin said quietly, finally understanding. They said he disobeyed orders. Yes, Haiwan replied from her dangerous repair position. They court-martialed him and stripped away his rank. They said following orders was more important than saving lives. What happened next? Velthari asked, though the alien was beginning to guess. Captain Hyun-woo answered, his voice full of emotion. Every human in the Federation fleet resigned in protest. We said we wouldn't serve an organization that punished people for saving innocent lives. The pirate ships were almost in weapons range, but the story continued. The Federation faced a choice, the captain said. Lose all humans entirely, or admit that sometimes doing the right thing is more important than following orders. They chose to honor Sung-ho. So Young's voice came from the medical bay, where she was treating injured crew members. He was given the highest award in the Federation and a permanent seat at every flagship's main table. But he had died of illness shortly after the incident, Do-hyun added from his security station, so the seat stayed empty, representing not just him, but the principle that some things are worth risking everything for. Velthari finally understood. The empty chair wasn't about efficiency or logic. It was about the courage to do what's right, even when it's dangerous. The silver pins, the alien said quietly. Memorial Corps. Taemin replied, touching his pin. We remember that one person can make a difference, even against impossible odds. The pirate ships opened fire, but something had changed on the bridge of the Celestial Harmony. The crew wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting for the same principle that Sung-ho had died for, that protecting others is worth any risk. As the final battle began, Velthari realized that humans weren't reckless or illogical. They were something much more dangerous to evil in the galaxy. They were willing to sacrifice everything for strangers, and that made them nearly impossible to defeat. The final battle lasted only 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes changed everything. As the pirate ships closed in for their killing attack, something unexpected happened. 3 Federation patrol ships dropped out of hyperspace behind the pirates. The cavalry had arrived, but not in the way anyone expected. This is Commander Park of the Federation patrol ship Rising Sun, came a strong voice over the communication system. Pirates, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately. The pirate ships found themselves trapped between the damaged Celestial Harmony and 3 fresh Federation vessels. After a brief exchange of weapon fire, the pirates surrendered and were taken into custody. But the real surprise came when Commander Park contacted Captain Hyun-woo directly. Captain, we received your distress signal and came as fast as we could. But I have to ask, why did you engage 8 pirate ships with 1 vessel? That was completely against Federation protocol. Captain Hyun-woo looked around his bridge. His crew was tired, his ship was damaged, but everyone was alive. The research station was safe and all the scientists had been rescued. Because people needed help, Commander. We couldn't wait for proper backup while innocent lives were in danger. There was a long pause before Commander Park replied. I understand, Captain. My ship carries the same tradition. We'll escort you back to Federation space for repairs. As the ships prepared to leave the battle zone, Velthari approached Captain Hyun-woo with a thoughtful expression on its silver face. Captain, I owe you an apology, the alien said. I called your traditions inefficient and illogical. I was wrong. What changed your mind? Hyun-woo asked. I witnessed something today that cannot be measured by logic or efficiency, Velthari replied. Your crew was willing to die for people they had never met. This is not weakness or primitive behavior. This is something far more powerful. Taemin joined the conversation, still trying to understand everything he had learned. Ambassador, what made Sung-ho's story so important? Why did it change everything? Velthari looked at the young communication officer thoughtfully. Because, human Taemin, for the first time in galactic history, one individual proved that moral courage is stronger than superior numbers, better weapons, or higher authority. Captain Hyun-woo nodded. Sung-ho showed the galaxy that humans would rather be punished for doing right than rewarded for doing wrong. That scared some people and inspired others. What happened to the Federation after all the humans resigned? Taemin asked. They realized they needed us more than we needed them, Do-hyun said, joining the group. Without humans, they had species that were smart, efficient, and logical. But they didn't have anyone willing to take risks to save strangers. So Young came onto the bridge carrying a medical kit. The Federation changed their rules after Sung-ho's sacrifice. Now every crew member has the right and the duty to disobey orders if those orders would result in unnecessary death or suffering. This rule now applies to all species in the Federation? Velthari asked. Yes, Captain Hyunwoo confirmed. It's called the Seung-ho Protocol. Every Starship commander learns about it in training. Velthari was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. So the empty chair represents more than just one human. It represents a principle that has become part of galactic law. Exactly, the captain replied. The seat's not empty because someone's missing. It's full because it represents the best of all of us. Over the next few days, as the Celestial Harmony made its way to a Federation repair station, something interesting happened. Velthari began spending time with each crew member, learning about human customs and behavior. But now, instead of criticizing these traditions, the alien was genuinely curious to understand them. One evening, as the crew gathered for dinner, Velthari made an announcement. Captain Hyunwoo, I would like to request permission to participate in your ship's traditions. What do you mean? The captain asked. Velthari stood up slowly and walked around the table to stand behind the empty chair. I have learned that this chair represents the courage to do what is right, even when it is dangerous or difficult. My species values logic above all else, but I have discovered that logic without courage is incomplete. The alien looked around the table at all the crew members, human and alien alike. I would like to honor the memory of Seung-ho and the principle he died for. May I join the Memorial Corps? The dining room fell completely silent. This was something that had never happened before. No alien had ever asked to join a human tradition in this way. Captain Hyunwoo looked at his senior officers. One by one, they nodded their agreement. Velthari, the captain said formally, the Memorial Corps isn't about being human. It's about being willing to put others before yourself. If you understand that and accept that responsibility, then yes, you may join us. So Young stood up and walked to a small cabinet near the dining room entrance. She returned with a silver pin identical to the ones worn by all the humans. This pin represents a promise, she said, holding it out to Velthari. A promise that you will never let fear or orders stop you from protecting innocent people. Velthari took the pin with its long, thin fingers. I understand, and I accept this responsibility. As the alien pinned the Memorial Corps symbol to its uniform, something remarkable happened. Every crew member in the dining room, human and alien alike, stood up in respect. Welcome to the family, Captain Hyunwoo said with a smile. From that day forward, the tradition began to spread. Other alien crew members on Federation ships started asking about the empty chairs and the silver pins. The story of Seung-ho, once hidden in classified files, became known throughout the galaxy. Ships that had never heard of the Memorial Corps began setting aside one seat at their main tables. Species that had never understood human behavior started to appreciate the value of moral courage. 6 months later, Taimin was promoted to Senior Communication Officer. As he sat at the main table for the first time in his new position, he looked at the empty chair across from Captain Hyunwoo. But it didn't look empty anymore. In his mind, he could see Seung-ho sitting there, not as a ghost or spirit, but as a reminder of what humans could accomplish when they refused to let others suffer. Taemin, Captain Hyunwoo said during the meal, you've been quiet tonight. What are you thinking about? The young officer touched his silver pin and smiled. I was thinking about how one person's choice 20 years ago is still making a difference today. Seung-ho probably never imagined that his sacrifice would change the entire galaxy. That's the thing about doing what's right, So Young said softly. You never know how far the effects will reach. Velthari, now wearing its Memorial Corps pin with pride, added, I have sent reports about human courage to the Axiom leadership. My species is beginning to understand that logic and emotion together are stronger than logic alone. As the crew finished their meal and prepared to return to their duties, they all took a moment to look at the empty chair. It had become more than a memorial to one human. It was a symbol of hope that spread from ship to ship, system to system, showing the galaxy that sometimes the most important victories come not from superior weapons or advanced technology, but from the simple decision to help others no matter the cost. The tradition continued, and every starship in the Federation made sure to have one empty seat at the main table. Not because someone was missing, but because the best of who they could be was always present, challenging them to live up to the example set by a maintenance worker named Seong Ho, who refused to let billions of people die on his watch. In the Gi end, that empty chair became the most important seat in the galaxy, a reminder that anyone, no matter how small or unimportant they might seem, can change the universe by choosing to do what's right.